everybody. It's Ryan from Rocky Mountain Cigar Show here, back for another live episode on Thursday nights. Thank you so much for tuning in. And tonight we've got somebody that is always guaranteed to be a phenomenal interview. This is a man that knows very much and is doing tons behind the scenes. We're going to touch base on that. But before we get into the guest, I'm going to go ahead and say a huge thank you to every single sponsor of this show. We have Drew Estate, K by Karen, Christoph Cigars, BAMF Cigars, New Air Humidors, as well as Axe and Oak. And tonight, everybody, I am going to be smoking the Kafie 1901 San Andreas, and by Gaby's help, making sure that I paired this one just right, he recommended that I go with the rye bourbon from Axe and Oak Distillery here in Colorado Springs. They are available nationwide. If you have never had Axe and Oak, you are doing yourself a disservice. This is definitely one of the best, if not, well, I'm biased, but I've been drinking this stuff when my wife and I moved here. We love it. But if you have not had the ability to try Colorado's finest and definitely Colorado's best bourbon, give it a shot. It is available nationwide. If not in your area, just go online and look for it. Jump over to BAMF Cigars and ROCF Cigars and use my promo code RMCS15 for 15% off your entire order. And since you're going to be buying so many freaking cigars over there at BAMF and ROCF, might as well jump over to newair.com and buy one of their humidors to go with all of those brand new cigars you just picked up at BAMF. Use my promo code RMCS15 for 15% off your humidor. And just because I would be derelict in my duties upon having the show and not pointing this out, everybody in the Colorado area, please come and join us for a night under the stars, smoking cigars, drinking spirits in a castle, all while raising money for the Ronald McDonald House Charities. And on top of that, Gaby Kafie has been so kind to join in on this sponsorship, and he will be sending stuff out to us, a nice gift basket that when I say gift basket, that's just for lack of a better picture, but a Kafie 1901 set that you're going to be able to bid on as well. And it's going to have, from what we talked about, it's going to have his coffee, his cigars, and whatever else he chooses to put in. $150 a ticket. Jump over to eventbrite.com and search Rocky Mountain Cigar Night, July 29th. It's going to come with a minimum of 5. See if my hand will look there. 5 cigars. We are working on giving out more than 5, but right now we have 5 to give out with that package. It is also going to come with a Glencairn topper. If you're familiar with what the Glencairn is, it's the bourbon scotch glass, and the coin is going to double as a topper. And we are also giving out Glencairn monogrammed Rocky Mountain Cigar Night, the year, Glencairn glasses, and you'll also be able to pick up additional Glencairn glasses as well there. All of this money is going to be going to Ronald McDonald House Charities, and it is all for an absolutely fantastic, fantastic charity. If you're unfamiliar with what Ronald McDonald House Charities is, they supply support, financial assistance to families that have to travel to get their child the medical assistance they need, and they pick up the tab of room stays and food and all those other great things. And in fact, Gaby is a doctor, so let's go ahead and bring Gaby in here real quick and see what he thinks of the Ronald McDonald House Charities, because I know he's got potentially some sort of interaction with them. Gaby Kafie, my friend, how are you, sir?
Wonderful, man. Wonderful. Thank you so much for having me on. It's a great privilege to head over to the west side of the United States for once. Thank you so much, man. Thank you, Ryan. It's a pleasure.
Oh, you are so welcome. Thank you very much for coming on, and thank you so much for being like so willing to partake in our charity event that we're doing here, Rocky Mountain Cigar Night for Ronald McDonald House Charities. So, thank you, thank you, thank you.
It's a
Um,
pleasure. It's a pleasure. Everything that we do. I think any successful business reaches that point because they appreciate giving more than receiving, and that's really what elevates us as human beings is just being able to contribute. Dan Thompson, how are you, buddy? Great to see you on. But yeah, it's a great charity, the one you guys are involved in. Um, there are
hey
plenty,
Dan.
very few charities out there that actually have a hit me in the soft spot. And right now, more than ever, people need help. Um,
Yep,
you
yep.
know, I don't want to go into that. It'll be an hour conversation, but
Sure.
we're,
No, no, absolutely,
we're happy
absolutely.
to donate. We're happy to contribute. We're happy to be a small part of what you're doing. Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you very much. That truly means a lot. Thank you. So, Gabby, let's kind of start a little bit back up at the beginning and talk about Kafie 1901 brands.
Okay.
I want to kind of understand how you developed this brand. Where's the 1901 come from? Because you are not that old to be 1901. So, what is that tribute to, and what other brands are in the Kafie 1901 line?
That's a great question. So the 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 principal story. Every brand has a story. Some are fiction, some are nonfiction, some are related to family stories. Ours is a family story dating back to 1901. 1901 was the year my grandfather literally emigrated. He left Bethlehem, went to England. From England, went to New York. It's quite an amazing story. It traces the lineage of the Kafie family during that era, going from New York down to Central America, El Salvador, Honduras, and we're a very linear family. Meaning, if you ever meet somebody with the last name Kafie, there's a direct relation between myself and that person. First, second, third cousin. Um, it's not a very diluted. It's not a diluted name at all. Many names out there uh, have just become so overly used that I felt our name was really unique. Our story was really unique. I think our family has served a very integral part in the development of Honduras and Central America as a region. And this is my humble way to represent and honor our family and our story over the past 120 years of the activities that have taken place in that part of the world. And now we represent the generation that's here in the US. But Cafe 1901 is really the story of our family going back to 1901, Ellis Island. We've got records of the ship that my grandfather actually, I'm going to give you guys a sneak peek. This is just a draft, all right? This is a sneak peek of some artwork that we're coming out with soon.
Oh,
Those are my
that
grandparents.
is that
That
is
is the
very
real.
nice.
That is the real ship, the Atenas, that my grandfather traveled on his way to
Wow.
Central America in 1901. A lot of cigar box artwork, if you really look at it, it's all it is a bunch of fiction.
Uh
People are
huh.
pulling people are pulling artwork from here, from there, whatever looks cool, whatever looks sketchy. Everybody's got their own style. My style is my bloodline, and this is what we do. This is what we represent. And I think it's a beautiful story. And people were like, "Oh, well, they're pretty. We're not a tobacco family." We became a tobacco family in the past 10 years. Um, we are also dabbling in coffee, as you may know. But coffee goes back into our family lineage down back to the 1930s. And it's just such a beautiful combination: coffee, cigars, the region where it comes from. But it really is a family story. It's a crazy passion that I've developed because the more I study our ancestors, the more I realize the shit that we complain about today is nothing compared to what they went through. You know, I'll give you an example. You know, your son might go away to college and he might relocate from Florida to Texas. And or you might pick up a job somewhere in the US and you might have to relocate. We're talking about people that were leaving their countries and hopping on ships not knowing where they were going to land or what it was going to be like or what the currency was like at that time or the exchange. I mean, it's a bare knuckles family story that um, I don't want us ever to lose an appreciation for the sacrifices that were made before. Um, it's really difficult. One of the hardest things to do is to be able to tell your story through artwork. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it's really, this the box that we're coming out with, the artwork on the box represents our journey into Honduras, into the Dominican Republic, into the United States. Um, there are gold coins that are featured on the box itself
Mm-hmm.
that are actual mint coin from the US 1901 that my grandfather actually had in his possession. Everything on the artwork that is featured there is just something beautiful, authentic. You can trace it. Um, it's a real story. And the beautiful thing is, and I want to share this, this is so important, right? You can see my grandfather right there, Don Chucri Kafie, okay? That's from a real picture of him uh, back in the day wearing that suit and tie,
Wow,
beautiful red tie, beautiful
that
dark
is
arc.
awesome.
So it's not like we photoshopped a suit on the guy just to make him look legit. I mean, I'm so proud of our family history. And I think everything I'm doing is just to tell our story and to put out quality products.
Well, now, Gabby, what I do notice too is you went with the old school cigar box, the cardboard, the thick, rigid cardboard. Now, is that because you were trying to throw back with the photo and kind of take it back a little bit, which is why you didn't use the wood? I'm only asking because I've got family. My dad tells me we had like a cousin 17 times removed, remarried back into the family, I don't, one of those weird spirals off of a
Yes,
family
yes.
line that married a Cuban and worked at Half a Tampa and down there in Tampa, which was the largest, I think, cigar rolling factory for a long time. And I have one of their old school boxes as well. So, what's the idea behind going with the cardboard over the wood?
That's a great question. Very, very, very astute question. I've always made boxes out of 100% Spanish cedar since our first brand was launched, our first product in 2013. I've had this romance and this love for Spanish cedar and the attributes that it contributes to a premium cigar. Spanish cedar is a beautiful wood. It ages well. It's got a nice scent. Um, it has an inhibitory property. It prevents tobacco larvae from hatching. Prevents tobacco beetles. It's a great way to preserve cigars, right? That's why Spanish
Correct.
cedar is used in aging rooms and humidors, right?
Correct.
The second thing is the Spanish cedar. When it's pure Spanish cedar, the actual wood breathes. If you don't paint it or anything on the outside, it actually
Mm-hmm.
breathes. But what's happened the past 7, 8, I'd say the past 2 years, um, Nicaragua grows a lot of cedar, Honduras as well. Uh, Two hurricanes have slammed Honduras in 2019, 2020. monster hurricanes. The last two were actually, I want to say multiple. They just had a week of freaking rain the past week that's turning into a tropical storm. But 2021 was a devastating year for Honduras. The pandemic, devastating, affected the labor force. We began to see shortages in lumber. Number one. Number two, we began to see the price of lumber shoot through the roof. And number three, which was most
Yes, we did.
offensive. Go ahead.
I say yes, we did see the price of lumber.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. But the third thing is our family has a foundation in Honduras that is helping the reforestation efforts of the country. One of
Wow.
our family businesses, which my cousins own and operate, my first cousins, I'll give you an example. In the past 2 to 3 years, they've replanted close to 200,000 trees in the country. And,
Wow.
and what happens is, like, for a moment there, I saw it as a sense of hypocrisy. Here we are, the family's reforesting a country, right? Is that the correct word? Reforesting?
Yep, yep. I think that is the correct word. It sounds
Reforestation.
weird, but
Yeah.
reforestation, yes.
So you can Google this. Just look up Kafie, Honduras reforestation efforts, and you'll see the articles. It just seemed like there was a conflict of end uh, end vision where here we are consuming a lot of wood, and the family, by the same token, is replanting trees to try to restore. Uh,
Correct.
and there's many reasons to the deforestation of Honduras. They're very politically. Uh,
Shaky.
th- th- I'm trying to find the right words. You have to forgive me because I think in Spanish sometimes when I talk about Honduras, um, there's a lot of corruption and a lot of activities that take place in countries like that that
Yep.
um, really, really create conflict. Nicaragua, Honduras, Cuba, that whole region. We can go into that if you want, but for me, I wanted to get away from using such heavy lumber.
Okay.
Um, Number one. Number two is I really wanted to be able to tell a story on the box artwork, and just plain wood was not allowing us to do that.
It's
Uh,
easier to do it on the cardboard.
it is a lot more difficult to do it, but yes, the visual appearance on a cardboard box is a lot easier. It took us
Correct.
6 months to design the box, whereas when we're working with wood, we could design a box in literally 2 to 3 weeks max. Um, Designing
Now,
a simple wood box that's embossed is a lot easier, or silk screening that we did. But right now, we're looking at our business and the fact that we're in 46 different territories around the world. So we ship a lot overseas, and shipping has gone up 30-40%.
you ain't kidding. Holy
Yeah.
crap. It's gone up a ton.
So with shipping going up 30-40%, we've brought the weight down of each unit. When I mean a unit, I mean 20 box count of cigars. We're bringing the weight down about 30%. And that's going to affect the cost of shipping around
Yep.
the world.
Yep.
But before we continue, if I may, Ryan, I'm going to do a cheap plug, my friend. Can I?
Go ahead.
Listen, I want everybody to know if you haven't heard, there is a boutique cigar festival going on in August 12th and 13th, in Martinsville, Indiana. Check out boutiquecigarfestival.com. We've got there's going to be 40 companies out there representing their boutique cigars. The beautiful thing about this festival is it's really focused around camaraderie and bringing together small family-owned companies. The end game is to bring together a unified voice for small cigar producers. You had mentioned earlier I do a lot for the industry. I'm not the one that should take the credit. Everybody coming together should take the credit because last year's festival was 20 boutique cigar companies that showed up to this event. This year we've got 40 companies, and we're expecting a lot of people to show up. Last year we hit about 700 people in attendance. This,
Wow.
this year we're hoping to surpass that number. Uh, but the whole goal in mind, if there was one thing that we're focused on, it's supporting Cigars for Warriors and supporting Cigar Rights of America. Look, everybody's got to do their part. I'm a big fan of the PCA. I'm a big fan of every association doing something to help cigar companies. The Cigar Association of America has done a lot for us as well. And a lot of the small companies like mine, we don't have the capital to put behind, the big lobbying efforts like some of the big companies do. So this is our way of coming together, building a collective voice and a collective effort to really push this anti-regulatory agenda forward. Thank you, man. That's all I wanted to
Oh
say.
yeah. Oh yeah. Now, I've got to ask. So I asked this to a lot of what I would or what would either be self-classified by either themselves or industry as boutique. But I figure you're probably the best man in the business to get a hard and fast definition of what a boutique company is. And can a company, a huge company, can they also be considered boutique with a line? Or is it just, oh, it's a smaller line? Does that make sense?
That's a great question. There's different layers to that question. The term boutique is used in Boutique Cigar Association to refer to a specific size of a company. And I'll tell you why that happened. Back in 2016, when the FDA released its guidelines for the premium cigar industry, it had established a definition for a small cigar company. And their definition of a small cigar company was 100 employees or less and $2 to $5 million in revenue. So I already knew from the get go that in order for us to have a conversation with the FDA or these regulators from the Department of Health and Human Services or NIH, or we can name so many different agencies like NASM, the National Academies of Science. We In any conversation, whether it's law or medicine, you have to establish the nomenclature. And what I set out to do with the term boutique in specifically Boutique Cigar Association was 1 million cigars or less, period, under that company, because that identifies us as small companies, small players. This way they know that as small companies, we are the ones at highest risk for going out of business. So yeah,
Sure.
look, we could pull, let's say, a big operation, a company that's producing 30, 40 million cigars a year, but they may have a specific section where they only make a specific cigar and it's made in small batch. Well, that is as boutique as it gets. But we took the term boutique specifically for addressing regulatory matters, not philosophical cigar manufacturing principles that a lot of people want to debate until they turn purple and, well, I'm boutique, you're boutique, everybody's boutique. This is handmade, it's handcrafted,
Yeah.
and that's what it comes down to. I think if you're family owned, if you're handcrafted, it's damn boutique as far as I'm concerned.
So
I
then
think,
let me ask you, by that definition that you just gave, if a company was bought out by another company that happens to be very big, not specifically talking about any brand, just proposing a theoretical here, would that brand that got bought out be absorbed in a way that, under your definition, would no longer be considered boutique?
well, first of all, congratulations, Matt Booth, on the acquisition.
I
Um,
was not trying to go there, Boof.
Listen,
Boof
I,
at
I,
all. I
I
Boofy's a
know,
good friend.
I love it. I just want to say congratulations. It's
Congratulations, Booth.
salud, man. When you're a family man, you have kids. You got. It's one of the most difficult things to do is to be family owned, which means you do everything right. Um, Let me stick to the question. It's all under the control of the creative director of that brand or that portfolio of offerings because that owner can decide to keep all the production limited, can decide to use uh, X number of bales of tobacco that he found. It's not like you just shipped in a container of Indonesian tobacco and you've got 40,000 pounds of the same shit, right? I mean, if you find and discover specific bales of tobacco that are limited of a certain vintage, absolutely, man, you have to, people will know. Listen, you want to answer that question? We could talk all day, but the connoisseur will pick up that cigar and they will know. They will know. You can taste it. You can taste it. It comes down to the flavor, the experience, the aroma, the body of the cigar. There's so many factors that go into what I consider a non-mass production cigar.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's fair. That's
yeah,
fair. Now,
absolutely.
I want to kind of I want to kind of dig into you a little bit. When you and I were talking the other day, um, I told you this was going to be something that I was going to ask, and I did it so that way there was a little bit of time for you to kind of process this question. But as being a sales guy for the last 20 years, I've made money, I've lost money, I've seen more money than I'll ever make in my life at various companies. What drives you? And what I mean by that is I've made the six figures, I've made the bucks to
Yeah,
where like it's like okay, I can coast for a little bit, don't have to maybe work as hard, but you still always wake up every day with that engine running and you're trying to hit the ground and multiplying what you do every day. Now you probably could 100% retire right now and live incredibly comfortable and not have the headache of a cigar company. So, what drives Gaby Kafie to get out of bed every morning and continue to do this work?
that's a great question. And just to give you a heads up, I had forgotten the question when we when you brought it up before. You know what? I love my family. I love. Uh, I'm 50 years old, and I look at my track record of all the ups and downs. And uh, what's funny is there's two types of people in this world. You got the type of person that thinks about the past and sees all the fuck ups, and you got the second type of person that thinks about the past and sees all the problems that they've overcome. And I really feel very blessed. I think that's what drives me is um, I established a while back that God has put me on this earth to be the ultimate problem solver, and that's one of the reasons I loved medicine so much. That's one of the reasons I keep my license active, even though I don't practice medicine. But owning a cigar company is the most difficult thing in the world to really produce and really create a product that stands out. And one of the things that I want to tell you today, which I have not said it at all in the past year, is that I'm a realist. And when we were operating our own factory in Honduras the past 5 years, the past 2020, when the pandemic began, 2021, when the two hurricanes hit Honduras, I had to look at the cards that I was dealt. And the cards that I was dealt was Honduras is a country with 9.5 million people.
Mm-hmm.
After the two hurricanes slammed Honduras 3 months apart, there was 1 million people out of, I'm sorry, homeless, not out of work, homeless. The pandemic created a catastrophe in Honduras so bad that the country had no oxygen anywhere.
Wow.
Within the borders of the country for 6 months, the country had run out of oxygen. And what happens is, what wakes me up in the morning, what drives me is I have to be realistic. And the reality is that not only were a million people homeless in Honduras, they were all moving north. They were all migrating to the U.S. I mean, over a million people from El Salvador and Honduras made their way up to the border. There were factories. If you keep track of all the factories in El Salvador, everyone's looking for cigar rollers. There's a shortage of materials. There's a shortage of labor force. There's a shortage of cellophane, of lumber, of anybody who's in the cigar industry will tell you that those problems, as much as I love and I want to do as much charitable work as I can, the fact is, if you don't take care of your core business, you won't be able to do anything. And,
Oh,
and
for
that,
sure.
so for me, what drives me is solving problems. I wake up every day. I really enjoy identifying weaknesses that we have and really improving on them. And that it takes you at least 5 years to figure out the cigar industry.
Oh,
Listen,
yeah.
it let me just say something, right? Because people forget, like, there's this misconception that, oh, you get into the cigar business, you go to the PCA show, you spend 50 grand, you've got bullshit. No, it doesn't work that way. It does not work that way. The first 5 years, you got to pull your head out of your ass,
Oh, yeah.
because if you don't, if you take pride in the product that you're delivering, it's going to take you at least 5 years to figure out what the hell you're doing, unless on day one you go to one of the top tier manufacturers and you just drop $250,000. Because if you don't do that, nobody will really give you a quality product. This is an industry of deep pockets. There's a lot of fly by night brands, that are
Hmm.
operating with small budgets, and no disrespect. I was one of those brands. That's how I started.
Sure.
We started our company with $20,000 and a lot of hustle that you can't put a price tag on.
No. Sweat equity.
Absolutely, absolutely. A lot of people ask me, how did you? I remember the first shipment of cigars that came up from Honduras back in 2013. My wife asked me, okay, great, you've got 300 boxes. Imagine 300 boxes of cigars, right? Had come up, and she asked me, what are you going to do? How are you going to sell them? People don't know you exist. And that evening, I said, you know what? There's only one way to do this. I'm going to get in my truck, and I will be back when I'm sold out. And I hit the road, and 2.5 weeks later, I ended up in Virginia at Old Virginia Tobacco with Gary Pesh, who busted my balls, by the way. I mean, Gary Pesh was brutal. I think I left his store crying, man. It was just brutal. But nonetheless, it was in Virginia that we completely sold out of the entire shipment in 2.5 weeks, 300 boxes. And let me tell you something. In the past 8 years, I've not been able to find one sales rep that can sell 100 boxes in a month.
Well, it is tough. You have, like you had said, you have so many companies out here. Then there's just so much to choose from. I was actually talking with a lounge owner one time, and I asked him, "What's the most expensive spot in your humidor?" And he goes, "The most expensive spot in my humidor doesn't matter." He goes, "The most expensive spot in any humidor is the one at home." He goes, "Your home humidor is the most expensive territory." And he goes, "I'm not trying to get in there. I'm just trying to
Wow.
sell you something to fill it. It's the brands that are trying to get in there, and the brands will have to fight for that home humidor space, because some people, like me, I have a 1500 count.
Sure.
Some people have a 50 count desk humidor. Well, that 50 count desktop humidor is a lot more expensive space because there's a lot smaller space. So when you're traveling around trying to get into these lounge humidors in the very beginning with 300 boxes. What is your approach now? Again, you're speaking my language now. I love sales. I study sales. I read sales. I have mentors that we've talked about when we talked a few days ago. What is your approach? You walk in, nobody knows who you are. What is your approach?
3 steps, very simple. Step one is I want to introduce myself and who I am and the company that I've started. Nobody's going to go against you because you're telling them what you do for a living and where you're at and what the whole vision is. Step two, make a friendship, build a relationship. The problem with sales, and I'm not a salesman, the problem with sales is that people walk into a cigar shop with a heart on. No, that's not the way it works. That's the last thing you want to do. Sorry, Ryan. You know,
Everything about the cigar industry is very phallic.
yeah, yeah. It's so funny. It's just, it really is an industry of friendships and relationships. And you know what? It comes down to just give me a shot. That's it. I'm not asking for much. You've got 800 boxes on the shelf. Let me have 3 little spots. We'll make it happen. And you know what? People gave me a shot. This is an industry where it's very welcoming of the new guy. However, if the new guy fucks up, it's also an industry where they will throw
We'll
you
talk
out of
to
their
you.
store.
Absolutely, they will. You're in
You
the
know,
clearance aisle quick.
but yeah, this
So, so
that
you sold your 300 boxes.
we
Did
did.
you then turn around and take your truck back to each store the following month? Or at that point in time, did you start calling in, getting orders? And the reason why I asked that question is because,
I'm going to tell you.
Abe DeBabna said it really, really plain. The cigar industry is a hurry up and wait industry, right? You might be developing a cigar for a year, year and a half, 2 years, 3 years, and that's a lot of capital tied up. So, what was that like where you went in, you sold your 300, now you're like, I got home, and your wife looks at you and goes, great job, do it again.
Yeah, yeah. Well, mind you, the we were thinking that the first 300 boxes would last 3 months, right? Because in the cigar business, it's all about projections. So we had ordered
Sure.
300 boxes the first quarter. We had 600 boxes second quarter. And then we grew that way, right? The way we grew the brand back in 2013, mind you, this was the area of um, uh, there was a couple crazy brands out there. One was Leaf by Oscar, who I believe at the time was working with Oscar Valladares and Jim Robinson, right? And
Yep.
if I close my eyes, it's because I'm really going back in history. And you know, Jim had this great persona with the glasses, the crazy hair, the yellow Jeep, and you know, he was just out there visiting shops nonstop, right? The whole concept of Leaf and Bean and what he was doing, and he's been very quiet lately, and I don't really know where he's at. I hope he's doing well. I think he was probably one of the most important brands on the market the past decade. Leaf by Oscar. Now, Leaf by Oscar was developed by Jim Robinson. That's something that man deserves kudos for and props. Period. Um, but what happened was that our second sales cycle really was different. I wanted to dabble in attempting different strategies, right? Our second strategy was shipping out beautiful samples kits in folders. We had developed a beautiful folder. It's funny, man. I keep them just as memories, right? I keep everything. I've got archives, right? And in these folders, we had, you know, brochures, price sheets, credit card forms. Everything was like immaculate, right? Just like how I would want to receive it. And
Sure.
what we did was on a weekly basis, we started shipping out I think it was close to 50 packets. So we'd call up a store. I say we, me, myself, and I would call up. I love it. It's so comical, man. Like, it's great that schizophrenia runs in the family, right? Uh, but yeah, man, I had a very like strict cycle. I had a sign on the wall. I would walk into my office. We had a warehouse back in those days, and on the wall it said, "How many stores did you call today?" Because we sit down, we get distracted, we're doing a bunch of shit, but we started with the number 10, and we hit different territories: northwest, northeast, south, like 10 here, 10 there, 10 here. And so people would get a heads up. Hey, what's up? What's your name? Who's the buyer? Who makes the decision? Who tries the samples? Boom, they go out 10 a day. 2 weeks later, we follow up. Hey, did you get the samples? Did you get a chance? Like, you have no idea. You know how many samples we sent out? 500.
Oh, I'm sure. A ton.
500.
A ton.
And the average cost to send out samples, and I haven't done the math, which I should have, was about, let me see here. That was about 10 grand that we spent sending out 500 samples. Incredible.
Wow.
So then what happened is we began to do a few articles here and there. Cigar Aficionado did a story about us, about launching a brand. Then we came out with the second blend that they supported us with. And then what happens with Cigar Aficionado, and nothing negative about them, is they'll help you out. They'll give you some, little push. But if you're not spending money with them, they're not going to keep writing about you. And that may be
yeah, it's a magazine.
I gotta respect it's their business, right? That's how businesses operate. They have expenses. We all have expenses. But things began to literally, the stores that I visited, one guy would walk into a shop in North Carolina, try the cigar. That guy would go to the next shop and say, hey, you need to bring this in. So things began to exponentially grow. And then I had a friend of mine, believe it or not, 2014, calls me up. He's like, I have a deal with Groupon, he said. I'm like, what the hell is Groupon? He goes, you heard of Groupon? Have you heard of Groupon?
Yeah. Oh,
Okay.
yeah, absolutely.
So he had a deal with Groupon. He was doing a bunch of brands back in the day, 2014. I won't mention them. There's no reason to mention them. I looked into Groupon and he goes, look, man, he goes, I will order. He goes, this is the deal, he said. I'll order 20,000 cigars from you and pay you after the Groupon ad runs. And I'm like, all right, rewind. I'm a little stupid. What does that mean? He goes, well, I want to do a sampler, a 5-pack sampler of your cigar, put it in Groupon. It's going to go out to, let's say, I think at the time was 3,000 or 4,000 homes, right? 2,500 people. So I'm like, look, man, I'm in. He goes, look, you'll get great marketing. You'll give your cigar out at a good price. Everyone's going to buy it. You're going to have the entire United States, because people that shop on Groupon are from the whole country, right?
Sure.
And it's not like we're discounting online. We're not going to make an enemy out of the brick and mortar shop.
Correct.
So he meets with the Groupon agency, the people that run the ads, and 20,000 turned into 40,000 cigars. And holy shit is right. So then he's like, listen, they approved me for 40,000 cigars. So I'm like, all right, so you want me to finance 40,000 cigars of my first blend that I came out with. So, we're talking $80,000 to $90,000, right? All in with import duties, freight, taxes, everything, right?
Yep.
So, but this is why I say, you know what? This is a business where you got to you're presented opportunities and you got to be able to decide if you can handle them and you can jump in. And so we decided to do it. They ran a Father's Day special or something like that. I forgot what holiday it was. They sold out. Literally, it was crazy. I'd never seen 40,000 cigars ship out in a week back then. Now, obviously, what's funny about that statement is Drew State ships that every day, right?
Yeah.
It's hilarious, you know. Um, and then those seeds, once planted, began to germinate, and we started to see between the samplers that I mailed out, between the road trips that I took, and by that time I had already begun taking other road trips. Road trips was the way to do it because the Southeast is
Sure.
by far, when you look at Florida, South Carolina, Alabama, Georgia, holy shit, this is like the holy grail of cigars, for down
Oh,
south, for
for
Britain.
sure. For sure.
This is amazing. But yeah, 3 years in, and we had met and exceeded our goals. And this is a true statement. I don't mind sharing certain things because it is what it is, and everyone's going through the same thing. Our company grew at an average rate of between 30 to 40% per year for the past 8 years.
Wow.
This is the first year where we're seeing business shrink. And the cigar boom is kind of a little bit over. I don't want to be the one. There's other people in the industry that are already saying it, but I'm telling you, our numbers are showing we're already down about 25% from last year.
Wow. It's funny that you say that. So I had Dave Garofalo on over from Two Guys, and we were talking a little bit, and he was talking how back order is kind of a lie in the cigar world, and he was talking about how people will order 50 boxes of something in hopes to get 10, but the back orders show 50, but they know damn right they're not going to get 50, and that people should go and cancel those orders and redo that,
Wow.
because they're finding that the cigar boom, like we just had over the last 2 years, is shrinking, and now companies are starting to get all of those boxes of cigars, and they're now having to sit on 30 boxes when they only ordered 30 because they knew they would get 10.
So let me give you a little bit of an insight on the cigar industry 10 years. And you fucking bring up great points, right? Dave Garofalo he could write a book.
I know, I'm working.
There's two guys in this industry that are, as far as I think there's actually, let me mention them just to give them credit. Lou Rothman, the
Yep.
founder of JR Cigars,
JR.
um, absolute brain. So much so that you have to listen to what he says. You have to rewind it and listen to it again to make sure you got it right. Um, Dave Garofalo is another gentleman that he's a businessman when it comes down to it. But when he talks about the industry and the trends, he's got his finger on the pulse like nobody else.
Mm-hmm.
And then down here in Florida, we're blessed to have Jeff Borshowitz, and Abe Dabubny.
Yep.
Two powerhouses, man. And it's a real shame that yes, I love it. I love it.
I love Abe.
That's great. That's great. He just has he the beautiful thing about this industry, man, is you get real people. You know,
Whether you like it or not, good, bad, or
I know.
indifferent, you get
Yeah.
real people. They're the first to slap you in the face and say, "What the hell is your problem?" And then they're the second ones to just turn around and build you right back up if you're willing to.
So let me go back to what I wanted to say about trade shows in general, right? And I've been to a lot of trade shows, not just cigar related, but I've been to different industries, and I've been to medical conferences. And when you go to a medical conference, right, imagine you're taking the top 1% income bracket of the United States, which is a bunch of specialized physicians in one room or one hotel, and you look at, I walk through the trade show floor for most medical conferences, whether if it's medical devices, equipment, testing, analytics, surgical equipments. I've been to cardiac, vascular. They're selling um, devices that are $500,000 each, right? And what happens is it's very tough when you come from an highly educated background and you've exposed yourself to really, the Pfizers, the Novartis, the Johnson and Johnsons, the Merck.
Modernas.
I mean, and you're like, holy shit, these motherfuckers only got a 10 by 10 booth. Like, they're fucking worth $80 billion. They got a fucking 10. They got a 10 by 10 with a fucking bag of popcorn. Like, hey, you want some fucking popcorn while you check out the Medtronic implantable device that can fucking run your heart for you? Like, and then I come into this. Listen, it drives me nuts. And then I come into the cigar industry, and you got a fucking $1 million booth.
I know.
You're like, what the? Is this like I don't get it. I think the cigar industry needs a reality check. And the reality check is it's not about the booth size. It's not about, the shoes, the watch, the clothes. I know everybody wants to be a badass. You want to be like the biggest but you know what? The guys with the deepest pockets, let me repeat that. The guys with the deepest pockets in this industry are the most humble, the most down to earth, and the ones that will like always refer to me as Dr. Kafie, and I have to remind, no, I go, please just call me Gaby. Like they're so like down to earth and humble and respectful, and their operations are massive, and I'm so attracted to that humble power, that you don't have to be pretentious. You don't have to like, it's not, no one's, and I'm not going to go into mentioning names or brands or companies, but that's the biggest mistake our industry suffers from is, um, let's call it, who's got the biggest booth syndrome. All right.
Well, okay. So with that point, let me play a little devil's advocate here, Doc. I think that you get those booths, good, bad, or indifferent, because so much of cigars is experience. And they're trying to give a store owner, a shop owner, a lounge owner that great first experience. Because we've all had a great cigar, right? And then that one person's around, and then for the next 10 times you smoke that cigar, all you can think about is that asshole. So they're trying to give the experience of the elegance of that cigar. Now, maybe they overspent, maybe they spent a lot, maybe they didn't spend a whole lot, but I do feel that versus the medical field,
Yeah.
which the medical field is, as somebody that did marketing for many, many years and concentrated on the medical and the legal fields, those people oftentimes, oh yes, this is what he's drinking tonight, Leon Jimenez, which is a rum. Cheers to you as well. So what salud. So when you're looking at the medical trade shows and legal trade shows and stuff like that, you're dealing with a group that is much more analytical in everything that they do. And let's be honest, if I just had coffee, donuts, and a $500,000 machine,
Yeah.
for the medical world, that's really all that's needed, right? Because doctors aren't wowed by the pizzazz more often than not. They're wowed by what the machine does.
Well, it's very smart. Listen, you're literally approaching rocket science IQ level here, because when you look at,
Tell my wife.
yeah, I will. You listen. We'll take this video segment. I'll text it to her. Okay. Um, are we having a limbic system trade show? Is that what we're doing? It's all about emotions, feel good, excited, let's party. I get that, but connoisseurs don't go to the trade show.
No,
Retailers
they
do.
don't. They
Retailers
don't.
do, and very
Correct.
good, very smart retailers operate at the same level of doctors and lawyers. And but
Correct.
let me go into a tangent because I don't want to pick on the big booth guys, right? God bless them, and maybe I have big booth envy, right?
By the way, you could see Gaby Kafie sitting in front of his cooler with a few humidors at the boutique show in Indianapolis, by the way.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I love it. But what happened and I know this because I've started when I started in the industry, I worked with one of the titan names of the industry, Rolando Reyes Sr., he was a king back in the 80s and 90s. He was the top dog in the cigar industry back then. In the 80s and 90s, Rolando Reyes Sr. was, as Cigar Aficionado named him in an article that they wrote, the greatest tobacco technician to ever live. Now, during his era, um, here's how the business operated, and I learned from them. Okay, now mind you, they sold their company. Oliva Cigar Company bought them out. So before the trade show, they in their warehouse in Miami, they had 1 million cigars.
Wow.
Once there were 1 million cigars in the warehouse, they would go to the trade show, sell them, and start shipping them that same week. Okay, like I remember Christian Eidoa, who I've known forever and ever.
Oh yeah.
We grew up together. The guy, I don't want to go into details, but I love that mother effer. He's not only a great friend, he's a mentor. I look up to him. He's an amazing businessman and master blender that really knows his shit. Um,
Absolutely.
I remember back in the days when I think it was what was that BlackBerry phone? Yeah, BlackBerry.
Yes.
They had a special software that they had on these little devices where a sales rep could be in a store, punch in the order, and then I'm going back 20 years.
Yeah, because BlackBerry had their own dedicated phone servers that
Yeah.
did housing for them. Yes, that was the business function.
Yes. So they were able to ship orders while your rep was in North Carolina. And Eidoa was operating this way with inventory already in the warehouse while they were at the trade show. Now, what's happened over the past decade is that a lot of companies are going to the trade show not knowing really when their product is going to arrive. So
Okay.
they're selling a product that's going to land in 3, 4, 5, 6 months.
Sure.
And that's created a massive backlog.
Correct.
And so what happens is the trade show's taken a massive hit because of two main reasons. Number one, a month to 2 months, and I you know what, I've already seen some of the emails of the specials being offered at the show. So the emails have already started to go out for trade show specials.
Correct.
And the second massive hit that's causing poor attendance at the show is that nobody has inventory. So what retailer wants to go spend $100,000 and wait 6 months to get his shit? Like what? So wait a minute. So if we really flip the script, we now have retailers that are financing brands so that they could stay in business.
Correct.
And that's why there's been a wave this past decade. We have never seen more retailers get into producing their own brands. They're like, you know what?
Yep.
Why should I buy this brand from this guy that never has inventory? Why don't I just make my own brands, my house blends? I've got the money. I can pay for it. There are errors that nobody wants to talk about. But you know what happens when I bring them up? When I bring them up, I'm the bad guy, right? I'm the bad guy. It's not about being the bad guy. It's about let's talk about it. The booths are way too expensive. We need to make it realistic. We need to make it a level playing field. What I mean by that is you got Joe Blow with booth A here that spent 30, 40, 50 grand, right? And he's there giving it his home run try, right? To really have a presence, and you got to be charismatic and have a personality and attract people. And trust me, I'm not saying I'm anything special, but wherever I go, I'm very friendly. I approach people, even people that don't like me. I approach them because that's who I am. You know. The second thing is booths are out of control. People start offering their show specials 2 months before. Why should I go to the show if I'm already getting blasted all the emails? And number three is nobody has inventory. What's the point? Why should I go spend all that money and then wait 6 months to get inventory? It doesn't make any sense.
So let me ask you this then, because we're going to go down this. I want to go down this avenue. We touched base a little bit on it when we spoke the other day, but do you feel that trade shows? Now, I've got nothing to. By the way, anybody from PCA watches this, I would love to go. I have nothing against anything. I'm just proposing a question. Do you think that trade shows like PCA and other cigar trade shows focus too heavy on the bigger legacy style brands, and in doing that, prices? I don't know what a booth is. I don't know what a 10 by 10 booth costs at PCA, but I assume it costs quite a bit. I know what a trade show costs, and with trade show costs, it's not just booth costs, it's travel costs, it's overnight, it's dinners, it's drinks, it's having a good time. So it's about 3x whatever the booth cost is in total, usually. Sometimes
You're
as
right.
much as
You're right.
2x.
You're right. Yeah, you're
So
right.
do you think a trade show like PCA should have a scale cost of entry based on the size of the company trying to enter?
That's a really good point. Like I don't think they should go. I don't think they should bend over backwards for anybody, right? If you're going to play at that level, you got to spend at that level. That's kind of a everyone's sitting here thinking, oh, holy shit, I can't believe he just said that. Like, well, this guy's sitting here screaming, and at the same token, he's saying there's barriers to entry to this industry, right?
Correct.
Um, the trade show is phenomenal. My dream has always been to be there, always. This year, I wanted to go. I've got a problem. I've shut my factory down. I've moved over to the Dominican Republic. We're not getting any production until August. We literally are not going to have any samples until August, the month after the show, right? Um, However, I do want to be there. I'm going to reach out to PCA to see what I can do to be there in person. If I have to join, I'll join. If I have to. Now, the thing with PCA, and I want people to understand this, there's many ways to support the cigar industry. They have developed this. Everyone says if you support the PCA, you support the industry. That is true. That's a very true statement. But there's other people that support Cigar Rights of America. There's other people that support the Cigar Association of America. There's other people that support in many different ways. There's other, like myself, for example. I've taken 5 different trips. I've taken time off of work, financed my own travel, airfare, hotel. I've gone to many, many different meetings with very, very important people that have influence with regulations, and we don't publish that shit, man. We just keep it quiet. This is what we do. But there's many different ways to support the industry. Um, I think one of the best ways to support the industry is don't piss off the FDA. Like, okay, let's say you're not supporting any association. That's fine. But by the same token, when the FDA has us under a magnifying lens, I think we should really be on our best behavior and really develop and market products in such a way that the FDA clearly understands that we're not targeting minors. Now, there are exceptions to the rule. I think the exceptions are if you have a private club. I'll give you an example. All these Cigar of the Month clubs, right? Those are private adult clubs. I mean, there's no way a child's going to get their hands on those cigars because it's a private club. But if you're operating in a cigar lounge, which is adult only mostly, Children don't go into cigar lounges; they go into convenience stores. Um, I think it's safe. I think it's okay to market your products in a cigar lounge. Um, but social media has really created some chaos with some brands that come out that are kind of like, all right, this is very gimmicky. This looks like they're targeting, it looks like they're targeting minors, but the reality is they're not. What a lot of players at the high levels of lobbying in our industry, they're not against that sort of marketing. They're against the fact that the FDA thinks that we're targeting minors. That's what they're afraid of.
Okay. So again, let me play a little devil's advocate with you. When you say you shouldn't be marketing, are you? Let me put this as politically correct as possible. Um, can you define your terms of what you mean on pissing off the FDA? And the reason why I say that is because I live in Colorado.
Yeah.
Pot's legal. I have a marijuana ventilation system that I bought for my lounge, my office. Why? Because it was inexpensive, but it's marketed for specifically for a grow tent, a marijuana outfit. So
Okay.
I use it for something different. Now, if I like certain flavored cigars, and oftentimes certain flavored cigars are marketed a little bit more colorfully.
That's not marketing.
Please define what you mean by pissing off the FDA, because
Okay.
I think under sheer existence we piss off the FDA.
Okay. So this is, look, man, marketing means when you take money and you put an ad in a magazine that is not appropriate for children, and you're actually promoting something that is for adults only. And I'll give you an example. I won't mention the company, right? But what certain companies, when they discovered that the expense to advertise with Cigar Aficionado was through the roof, they found cheaper alternatives, and they started advertising in surfing magazines and skateboarding magazines and
Okay.
alternative lifestyle magazines. So what happens is now you've got a flavored cigar being advertised in a fucking magazine that the average age of the person that buys that magazine is anywhere from 9 to fucking 15, okay?
Okay. I get
That,
what you're defining
that
there.
and that's what really created a shitstorm for us. Like
Okay.
if 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 you've got everybody's social media pages are ours are 21 and over. Everybody in the industry is already adapted. Hey, 21 and over, adults only. Like it's like we're running porno sites. It's ridiculous, right? Maybe we should have gone into the porn business. Forgive me. Forgive me, Ryan. Oh shit.
Okay, so your beef is not the marketing, it's the location of the marketing and how it's set. Not how if a brand comes up with a name called blueberry gumdrop,
No.
and so you take issue with where they market blueberry gumdrop, but I'm going to tell you that FDA takes issue with the name blueberry gumdrop.
Correct. So look, let's not forget who we are. Premium cigar manufacturers are by definition a completely different category. Draw a line in the sand, leave those guys over there. However, there are premium cigar manufacturers that are coming out with those products and marketing them in those surfing and skateboarding magazines. And that's the problem that we face, is that those monster multinational corporations have really presented some obstacles to the traditional family owned premium cigar manufacturing companies. And PCA took a beating when they came out and they stood with family owned premium cigar manufacturers. How did PCA take a beating? There was literally a boycott 2 years ago where four big players didn't go.
Yep.
So listen, it's funny, right? We're talking everything we're talking about, everything I say, everything that comes out of my mouth is because I want to be in this industry the rest of my life, and I want to see premium cigars thrive in a protected environment for as long as I live. Because you know what? This is something that should be respected, preserved, the tradition, the process. There's nothing like it. Uh, I compare us to craft beer. I compare us to,
Sure,
craft bourbons. I compare us to
sure.
everything. But I want to try to keep things flowing, right? So when the big multinational players came into PCA and blew shit up with their $1 million booths, then every family owned company was like, "Oh shit, we got to keep up. We got to keep up. We got to keep up," right? And what they did was they priced a lot of good people out of the show because now we have this monster venue that's priced ridiculous. It's too big. Half the trade show floor is empty. The halls are empty. I mean, it this people think that the trade show's failing. The trade show is not failing. The reality is this is a tiny industry, and we need a small venue, and we need smaller booths, and we need smaller representation. And when we start acting small, the government won't see us as a threat. But when
So
all these big, go ahead.
I was gonna say, so let me. I didn't mean to interrupt. Well, this is. So you take a company like, or not company, but you take a brand like Acid. Okay, now you have the FDA, which shouldn't exist in my humblest opinion, constitutionally. Period. But it does. So you take a company like the FDA, or a company, it's a company, right? Its job is to make money for the government based on fines and regulations. So you take a business like the FDA, and they look at a brand like Acid. Now, I am not the biggest of flavored cigar smokers. I'm not. But at
Okay.
the same time, I understand that a huge chunk of the cigar population started off with an acid. And
Or,
that
or, or,
brought
or you listen, you're 100% right. People forget about the old Becker cigar, the sweet tipped cigar, right?
correct, correct.
This is my in my mind. I think that's where acid really came up with the idea because Baccarat was
Sure,
kicking ass and taking names 15, 20 years ago when they came out with
sure.
that cigar.
So
And
you have a company like that. Should the industry as a whole stand up for acid's right to be considered a premium cigar and not have the same regulation that would fall under gas station
so
cigars?
that there's a problem with flavored cigars in general. Flavored cigars are made of short filler tobacco.
But why is that a problem? You have J.C. Newman that does mechanized cigars that are short filler.
Yeah, but in the definition that was established for a 50 for a premium long filler cigar was that at least 50% of the filler must be long filler. And the problem that exists with flavored cigars is that more than 50% of the filler, but now we're getting really technical. I don't consider an acid a premium cigar,
Okay.
but they're charging a premium amount for it.
And so, do you think that the industry should stand up for a brand like Acid, knowing that it's, for lack of better definition, a gateway cigar into other cigars for a lot of people that do that, and that's kind of shutting the door for a lot of entry level cigar. I know a lot of people that got into it because of an acid blondie, and they're like, "Holy shit, this tastes awesome! What the
Wow.
hell do the rest of them taste like?"
Yeah, that's a very tough question to answer. I think that you want a fictional answer or you want just the fucking truth bomb.
I want the Gabby answer.
All right. The Gabby answer is no. I think that there should be two different categories. And there is protection. The flavored cigar world is protected under grandfathered rules. Okay,
Okay.
so companies that had flavored cigars on the market prior to 2008 are protected. 2007. Um, and they're always going to be on the market. They're not going away. However, they are going to be restricted in their ability to market. The Gaby Kafie answer on the premium cigar industry does not have the resources to fight every battle. We have to focus on who we are and what we create. And when you look at the entire premium cigar industry, 350, 400 million cigars imported to the US a year, that's really nothing, man. That's
It's
nothing.
not. It's not.
That's not a lot. When you look at machine made cigars, I know one company that's producing machine made. I'm talking like cigars that are like a Robusto Toro size. Okay,
Okay.
I know one company that's producing over 2 billion. One company is producing over 2 billion machine made cigars. It's a different animal. Um, now we're getting into multinational companies. Now we're getting into companies where their production actually affects the GDP of a country.
Correct.
I'm talking like I won't go into specifics or name any names, but the saddest thing that happened in our industry is that I call it delusions of grandeur. You know, there's a lot of glamour magazines out there, Cigar Aficionado, Cigar Journal, Cigar Snob, and they all do a great job at telling our stories, right? They all really tell a beautiful. There's nobody else telling our stories. Let's be clear. I mean, we've got this platform. Um, it's a blessing to be here. But when you get written up by one of them, it's like they give you the blessing to the industry, right?
Correct. Correct.
But just because you see your name in print, I think we should never forget who we are.
Hmm.
Um, let me give you an analogy so we can put things into perspective. All right, 80 million cigars were exported out of Honduras last year.
Wow.
Yeah, you say wow, right? Exactly. We're like wow, and if you convert that to how many containers, all right, let's say it's about 200 containers, okay? 200 40-foot containers full of cigars coming to the US, right? But just to give you perspective, we're in the coffee business. My wife's family founded the oldest coffee company in Honduras, okay? It's called Café El Indio. Last year, Honduras exported 18,000 containers of coffee.
That's a few.
So that's why, I mean, if you go to a coffee trade show, you would be shocked to see a $30,000-$40,000 display. But for some reason, in the cigar industry, what I don't understand why there's this competition for who's got the biggest, baddest $1 million booth at the show. When you look at the real wealth that exists in these third world countries, 18,000 containers. I'm talking companies that supply Starbucks, and you go to the coffee trade shows, and it's a $30,000 booth,
Correct.
and they're landing $100 million contracts for coffee.
Oh yeah.
So what we need is a reality check, and the reality check is we need a more level playing field. Our industry is very small. We need to support everybody that's in it. We need to give the new guys an opportunity to enter the industry. If there's no new blood in the industry, an industry disappears.
Sure. So so just to change topics here, I really want to utilize you for the time that we have left, and I would like for you to walk through medically what a cigar does to the human body and what the difference is between a cigar and a cigarette would be, because I've heard you do this and
Oh,
I think
sure.
it's very, very fascinating. And this
Wow.
is a question, this is one of the bigger questions that I had for when you were on, because I would love to have it explained on my show what a cigar does to you medically versus what a cigarette does to you medically.
The reason I was laughing, Ryan, is somebody wrote, "I'm sucking on a phallic shaped stick right now. It's peppery."
Yes, that is one of my best friends
That's
that's
awesome.
watching the show that we said earlier. And by the way, Kevin Thompson gave you a big shout out here, talking
Beautiful.
about how he loves your friendship, admires your craftsmanship, you
Oh,
value, you bring as a friend. Best of luck
thank
to
you,
you.
Kevin.
But
Love you, brother. Thank you.
I would like for you, because this is the first time I've had a doctor on, right?
Okay. Okay.
I would like for you to kind of explain what the differences between smoking a cigar and smoking a cigarette are on the body.
So I think the best way to respond to that answer and to keep it really concise and focused is to talk about, first of all, a paper that I wrote, and I submitted an abstract to um, every senator in the United States. I submitted that paper to the Department of Health, to the National Institute of Health, for them to basically approve all the references that I made of their research projects. And third was um, did I mention the Department of Health and Human Services and the FDA? They're all kind of like in bed together, right?
Correct.
Abstract number one was a life expectancy of premium cigar manufacturer factory owners. I literally compiled a list of 25 legendary cigar manufacturers. And whoever you can think of, and there's some of them are still alive. God bless them. Heinrich Williger, the
Oh
dude.
yeah.
With all due respect, I don't mean to call him the dude, but that dude is the man. All right, he's already well into his 90s, and every photo you see him in, he's with a cigar. Every interview that he does, he's smoking a cigar. Rolando Reyes Sr., Carlos Fuentes Sr., Rolando. The list goes
Padrone.
on and on. My God, Jose Orlando Padron. You're right. The average age when they passed away was 88. You know the average life expectancy for a white Anglo-Saxon male in the United States is 71. So the I was opening up the conversation that cigars aren't bad for you. Now, I went in deeper and I started talking about the fact that the majority of these cigar makers that we're talking about were living in third world countries with third world healthcare. It's not like they were, living in Miami with Baptist Health System right around the corner to go get their yearly
Correct.
physical, right?
Correct.
I mean, um, that opened the conversation as to why cigars are not harmful. All right. Then, having studied fermentation for many years and understanding the process of tobacco fermentation, I came to learn that there's really something very important in the whole fermentation process as an exothermic reaction, which really everyone talks about. Well, we're getting rid of all the impurities of the tobacco, we're getting rid of nicotine. All right. We're getting rid of nicotine by way of removing all the ammonia. Look, fermentation is a decay process.
Correct.
Okay. When anything,
Artfully decay.
yes, yeah. I'm going to be a little bit vulgar here. When something rots, all right, if you leave a slab of meat in your trash can and it's filled with maggots, I want you to go touch it. It's going to be warm.
Oh yeah.
Anything that dies and decays goes through a heat releasing process. In tobacco fermentation, the principal component that is released is ammonia. When you walk into a room where tobacco fermentation is taking place, it's very difficult to breathe in there because the ammonia is so heavy in that room.
Sure.
Now, on a scientific point, which is beautiful because this is what I'm telling you today, and everybody watching and tuning in is exactly what I told Mitch Zeller, the director for the Center of Disease of the Center for Tobacco. What's it called? They have a name. Mitch Zeller was the director of the Center for Tobacco, CTP, Center for Tobacco Products. Because Mitch Zeller asked, what separates your combustible tobacco product from all other combustible tobacco products? I said, we're the only tobacco businesses that actually go through a multi year process to get rid of the ammonia from the tobacco. He's like, okay, well, like, what does that do to a cigar, right? So when you have a nicotine molecule and it's in an environment where there's a lot of ammonia, it's easily absorbed in the oral mucosa and in the lungs, right? So that's why if you study cigarette companies, they're purchasing 50 million barrels of ammonia each year because as they take air cured tobacco from a curing barn, they're spraying it with ammonia as they're chopping it up to make cigarettes. Ammonia makes nicotine a highly volatile molecule which is easily absorbed by the mucosa.
Really?
It does. So it makes it very addictive. Now, cigar companies do the exact opposite. When we spend a year to 2 years removing the ammonia from the tobacco leaf, that volatile ion of nicotine becomes a salt in the absence of ammonia. That nicotine
Okay.
salt, the nicotine salt is not absorbed in the oral mucosa. And just recently, the National Academies of Science, Engineering, and Medicine did a comparison of a non-smoker and a cigar smoker, and they had a gentleman smoke a cigar. They did blood tests 1 hour after completion of that cigar, and they compared the blood of a non-smoker to a cigar smoker that just had one cigar, traditional regular smoker, cigar smoker. Nicotine levels were identical in both, and they can't figure out why. And that was the second research paper that I submitted to everybody. I even engaged the National Academies of Science directly. I spoke to the director. I submitted a 27-page report to them directly, explaining to them why premium cigars are different. So the fact that we don't inhale them, the fact that they're non-addictive, the fact you don't wake up in the morning jonesing for a cigar. You don't. You want a cup of coffee, and the cigar finds its way into your hands eventually, right? At the right mood. Cigars are
Correct.
really more around a mood, not an addiction, you know?
Yes. Yes. I could go for weeks without having a cigar, but that doesn't mean I don't miss
Right.
having a cigar. Like, I really want people to understand that because you miss something does not mean you're addicted to something.
Well, you're missing the moment, the experience, the
Well, correct, but like I was a cigarette smoker for 20 years, Gabby. As somebody that can literally tell you, I would wake up and the first thing my wife and I would do is kiss each other, get dressed, make coffee, have a cigarette. And
wow,
and it was to the point where it would be like we've been up for 45 minutes. Do you want to go and have a cigarette already? Like,
wow.
my God, come on, hurry up. Now I wake up, I can have a cup of coffee. I choose to have a cigar. But on the days I don't have a cigar in the morning, I do miss that.
It
But
is such
I'm not going like, oh, I need one,
right,
you
right.
know?
It's just such a beautiful experience. Now, when you say smoking a cigar, well, look, if you want to get into the specifics of how does it affect your health, if you smoke a cigarette, one cigarette will cause vasoconstriction of your peripheral blood vessels for 15 minutes, right? So, what happens when you have a chain smoker and they're having a cigarette every 10 to 15 minutes all day long? They're really existing in an environment where their peripheral blood vessels, the small arterioles in the body, are constricted the entire time. That puts extra pressure on the heart. That's
Correct.
going to cause atherosclerosis. That's going to cause cardiomegaly, enlarging of the heart. That's going to cause congestive heart failure over a long period of time. Apart from the carbon deposits that are building up in your lungs, it's really a multi faceted like effect. The cigarette. What does a cigar do? How's it possible that you could take somebody's blood pressure before they have a cigar and after, and their blood pressure will be lower after a cigar? There is
So,
no.
yes, I will second that real quick. To touch that point, I don't want to walk away from that really quick. I was 265 pounds in February. All right. I got my blood work done. My wife was encouraging me to go and get my blood work done, to go and figure out how to get a little healthier, how to eat better. And from February to 2 days, or yeah, 2 days ago, when I went and saw my doctor, I've lost 20 pounds, a little over 20 pounds.
Okay.
My blood pressure, now, I had smoked 2 cigars before going to my doctor for my physical, for my 6 month or 4 month physical. My blood pressure in February was 130 over 75, or 133 over 75, which
Okay.
you know as a doctor, it's high. My blood pressure after smoking 2 cigars and going to my doctor was 103 over 72.
Yeah. Yeah.
Doctor looks at me, he goes, "That 20 pounds you lost stopped your high blood pressure."
Wow.
But it wasn't the fact that I had a cigar, to your point. Just literally 20 minutes, 30 minutes before I went, I finished my cigar. And my blood pressure was still significantly lower.
Now there needs to be had a conversation. By the way, Dan Sawahi, great man. He
Love
said
Dan.
there's a difference between habit and addiction. Thank you, Dan.
Yes. Big difference.
I think we need to have a conversation about cigar factories and the way different cigar factories process tobacco. There are, in my opinion, there are factories that ferment their tobacco better than others. Okay, so now based on that principle, um, it all comes down to I don't want to use slang terms like deep pockets, or it comes down to the infrastructure that you have built, the years that you've been in the industry, your understanding and your knowledge of tobacco. If you're working with the right team of agronomers, master blenders, people that understand the soil, the leaf, the fermentation process, the duration, the rotation of the pilons, all that, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's only 10 names in the industry that really know what they're doing, and everyone's going to go ape shit. Like, look, we had a factory in Honduras. Did we know what we were doing? I think we knew better than about 85 to 90% of the industry. We were in the top 10% of the way we were producing cigars in Honduras. Where I am today with La Aurora and having been with them since November and having toured their factory, the first time there was a tour. The last three trips was getting into the belly of the beast. There's so much I have yet to learn. This is what's amazing about this industry is that when you take a factory that's been around since 1903 and you look at their processes, their methods, their team, and their that systems and protocols in place for each and every type of tobacco leaf that they process, it's really humbling, man. It's really humbling because um, I asked myself this question. A lot of people say, "Why did you close your factory and go to La Aurora?" Right? The answer has to do with giving our connoisseurs the best cigars we can. Right? Number one. Number two is after visiting their facilities, I realized that it would take me 100 years to get to that point of that level of manufacturing.
And skill. Yes.
This is an industry of multiple generations to reach that level of manufacturing quality. So not all cigar companies are created equally. The great equalizer is the marketing, the branding, the cigar bands. There's a lot of innovation going on. You look at crazy cigar bands, boxes, colors, names, like that's really the driving force to get attention in the marketplace. But when you look at the legacy brands, how come this company has been producing that same cigar for the past 30 years and this new company has to come out with a new label every 3 to 6 months? Because they can sell, anybody can sell a cigar once. Can you sell that brand for the next decade and people will still come back for it?
Correct.
And there's guys in our industry that I have a lot of respect for that come out with a brand, and 10 years later that brand is still around and it's still in high demand because the fucking tobacco's great. So on the medical standpoint, that's the gray area. We could sit here and defend premium cigars all we want, but I think that the real problem that we have is not everybody's processing the tobacco. I do believe that there are people that will shorten fermentation to leave nicotine behind.
So, what would you say to somebody that goes, "Well, Gabby, you're a brand owner. You probably smoke 5, 6 cigars a day. I get what you're talking about with the heart, with the lungs, because you're not inhaling it. But what about mouth cancer?" And before you answer, I asked this question. I worked with about 15 different oncologists doing marketing for them.
Okay.
And I got very, very close with about 3 or 4 of them to where I was able to really, really ask poignant questions that other doctors might be like, just whatever. And one of the questions I asked him is, what is cancer and what develops it? And I had about 4 of those tell me the exact same thing, which was everybody is born with cancer in their body. Eventually, your body cannot fight it off. So, my question to you is, how do you defend people going, "Well, what about mouth cancer, doc? What about that?"
Well, that's the very. This is not just a medical opinion; it's a logical opinion. And let's put cigars aside, okay? If you take the average person, right, and you ask them, "Do you have a yearly physical done? Do you, if you've got something in your body that you feel isn't right, do you go get checked up? If you like, you'll have somebody. I'll give you an example. They might develop an abscess in their gums and they never have it checked because they're like it's going to go away. Like,
Correct.
how often do you go to the dentist? There's as a doctor, preventive health care is the most important thing there is. And
Mm-hmm.
mainstream, I'm not going to even talk about the rest of the world because America is a country where we're afforded luxuries of access to healthcare like nowhere else. Okay. And there's certain things you got to take care of yourself. Are you eating well? Are you taking care of yourself? Are you watching your weight? Are you exercising? Do you have proper hygiene? I mean, I talk about proper hygiene. You have no idea how many adults don't floss.
Correct.
You know? Or they think brushing your teeth once a day is enough. I mean, you should technically brush your teeth after every meal. You should go to the doctor every six
Hey,
months.
Tim. No, I agree. I
There, you
agree.
should a dentist visit once a year, a cleaning every 6 months. Like, how if you're neglecting a system and somebody gets oral cancer, you can't just blame the cigar on the oral cancer.
You can't blame the habit.
You can't. You have to look at the person's system and how they took care of their system.
The whole picture.
Correct, correct. Everyone always is look. Doctors are great. Doctors 90% of the time they don't know what the fuck is causing something, right?
Yeah.
So they're always going to blame the cigar, the alcohol, or they're always going to look to blame something, right? Everything's evil. Yeah, like so. And I'm a realist. Are you taking care of yourself? If you're 400 pounds, you haven't had a teeth cleaning in fucking 4 years. You're smiling and you got like a grill full of plaque. There's a problem. It's not the
Well,
cigar.
yeah, mouth has been shown to show direct signs of heart. At least that's what I've been told, is that a dentist can look at your mouth and tell you, I think you should go get looked at by your doctor again.
Well, you can develop bacterial endocarditis from poor hygiene of the mouth, which is an
Hmm.
inflammatory disease of the heart valves. Um, but yeah, I mean, let's just keep it logical. And I'm not saying, oh, everybody's not doing a good job taking care of themselves, but you should. We're only given one body, man. We got to take care of it. We all have an expiration date. Nobody knows when it's coming. But I think if you do a good job, it's really a shame because I think income level. I think there's two factors that affect healthcare. It's income level and education level. It really does affect healthcare. And I'm not saying that, oh, those are the bad guys. Not at all, man. But America is really a country that has been blessed with providing a very good standard of living for the majority of the population and a
Yep.
very good access to healthcare. So there's no reason for you to neglect your body in this country. Look how people they'll buy a new car and they take care of it better than they take care of their bodies. So do I think
I agree.
the incidence of oral cancers? The There was a study that was done by the NIH, 30-year study that looked at oral cancers versus non-smokers with premium cigars. Right? It was the results were irrelevant. I think non-smokers were at 0.06%. Cigar smokers were at 0.6%. It's like when you're dealing with less than 1%, you can't blame the cigar for causing
No,
oral.
no, you can't. You can't. And I've had oncologists tell me straight out, I've worked with runners, cross country runners, people that we would look at as the epitome of health and how they treat their body, what they put into it. They develop cancer, lung cancer, never smoked a day in their life.
Wow. Wow.
And that's where I do personally subscribe to the point, or to the fact that eventually, like you said, your body starts to break down. We don't know what age that is, but at whatever age that is, it allows certain diseases to peak out.
The number one disease causing agent in the human body is stress. Uh,
Oh,
I, I, I,
100%.
I want to say you had Karen Berger's banner up.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't help but think she's going to be at Boutique Cigar Festival.
Yep.
Um, I'm going to do my cheap plug again because
Go ahead.
we want people to come out. We're having a festival this year again. It's in August. Check out boutiquecigarfestival.com. All the information's on there. Um, Great companies are going to be there. Just come out, support, have a good time. It's a 2-day event. Friday night's a VIP dinner, which is nearly sold out. There's 200 tickets for that. And Saturday is a full day event from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. It's worth it. We're actually launching this year. We decided to do a single barrel bourbon. It's aged 5 years, and we're releasing it and it's being branded Smoke at the Creek. And it's really to support the lobbying efforts of the Boutique Cigar Association. And the proceeds of that bourbon that we're releasing are going to go to Cigar Rights of America. So, guys, come out and support. Um, last year was a fantastic time. The biggest problem we had last year was nobody wanted to go to sleep. It was like we were at a slumber party. A bunch of people that love cigars and love to have a drink. And we last year we took over the Holiday Inn Express in Martinsville, Indiana. This year, just to save the poor people that work the Holiday Inn, we actually booked the entire hotel. So you should come out, Ryan. We'd love to have you.
I would love to be able to come out, but with a 1-year-old daughter and I've already stretched thin, there's just no way I could make it up. But next year,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
hoping to put that on my list for
that would
sure.
be great. But I wanted
So
to go back to
go
stay
ahead.
focused. Stress is the number one killer.
Oh
It,
yeah,
when we are stressed, it's if we go back to animalistic fight or flight, uh, the innate responses of the human body of any animal, right? A fight or flight response uh, is also, even though we're not in danger of being mauled by a lion, the human body interprets stress um, in the. It's funny. I love this, Dan. Yes, he'll babysit your daughter. I love it.
Dan, you are more than welcome to if I can convince my wife.
But when we're under constant stress, our cortisol levels are elevated, which does alter the pH of the human body, which creates a system that is prone to disease. So we all need to learn to de-stress. Some people de-stress by going to the gym. Some people jump in the hot tub, jacuzzi. Some people smoke cigars. Just find your method of de-stressing and hold it sacred to yourself and just practice de-stressing. I think that's the most important thing. When you said earlier what drives me, look, a lot of people don't know this, but I used to when I was practice when I was practicing medicine. I'm sorry about the beeping in the background. It's
You're
messages.
fine.
I didn't know how to disconnect from work. I was working too much. I spent a decade busting my ass working a lot as a doctor in a very busy city like Miami, right? And um, it affected my body. I was
It
operating.
does.
I was driving a lot. Commuting in Miami is a nightmare. Um,
Mhm.
and I developed a disease of the retina called central serous chorioretinopathy, which in fact is derived from elevated cortisol levels from operating in a high stress environment, right? And it affected my eyesight to the point where I could not practice medicine anymore. I couldn't do surgery anymore. So my career came to a halt. So now that I have my own business, I really, people are like, oh, what's wrong with Gabby? He doesn't want to grow his business. I do want to grow my business, and we're doing a lot to do so. But I always respect the fact that I don't know when to turn things off, and I tend to overwork. So I try not to put myself in environments or situations that are high stress. So our
Sure.
business will continue to grow in due time. But I want to say something further, right? The cigar industry forgets that if you look at the greatest cigar companies in our industry, and I won't name who they are, but everybody knows who they are. One company, um, for about 50 years, they were famous for selling bundle cigars before they got into the premium and ultra premium market, which was second and third generation, right?
Mhm.
Another company, and I love these companies because they're my role models, right? Another company based out of Miami for about 25 to 30 years, their entire focus was selling cigars to all the Cuban cafeterias in Miami. And then what happened, the second generation went to college, they got educated, and then they came into the family business. and they took things to the next level. I'm into year number 8. I plan to do this for the rest of my life. We will grow our business when the time is right. We don't want to get into debt. We don't want to bring on partners that will not benefit us. There's two things that'll destroy a business: is debt and partnerships. That can destroy a business. So where we're at today, we're amazingly blessed. I can just say thank you to everybody for helping us get to where we are. We're living a dream, but we do have aspirations to continue to grow, and they will happen at the right time. But I'm not going to force things um, when I don't feel it's right for us.
And that's the best, knowing how you have to grow as somebody that's consulted for businesses before, is growing too fast could actually hurt a business. Growing too slow could hurt a business. It's finding that comfortable medium that
Yeah,
they can ride to where it's growing like a hockey stick, but the faster a business grows, the faster I typically see them being overwhelmed, can't keep up, the product suffers
yes, yes.
because they're just trying to keep that sale. So I completely agree with you. Absolutely. But as we close the show here, Gabby, I do
Yes,
have
sir.
some lightning round questions
Yes,
that
let's
I
do
ask
it.
everybody. So, first question, favorite rapper. Now, you could give me musician if you want,
That's
but
fun.
I'm more interested in your favorite cigar rapper.
Favorite rapper. Biggie Smalls, first of all. Favorite rapper. Man, I'm a sucker for Mexican San Andres rapper.
That's what I had tonight out of yours, and that
Yeah.
was immaculate.
Thank you
That
so
was
much.
absolutely a fantastic
So
cigar. I love that cigar.
I'll share with you that in Honduras, we ran out of it and we were not able to get more of it. There's a monopoly on Mexican San Andres wrapper, and that was one of the main decisions to bounce and go to the Dominican Republic to a manufacturing partner that has excellent quality San Andres wrapper. So thank you for that, man. Great question.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And here we have my buddy John says here that Gabby's logic is refreshing in a world of emotional finger pointing. And
It's,
Dan,
wow, thank you.
thank you so much for the kind words. Great show as usual. But
Thank you, Dan.
Gabby, I do think that your opinion is refreshing because you come from two worlds and you're colliding two worlds together, the medical world and the cigar world. And you do take a different approach to how you answer questions. And it's fun to be able to talk with you because the way you do answer questions, you always at the back, I think, of your question, keep that medical expertise or that
Yeah.
analytical expertise that you brought from your medical world, and but that's ingrained in you. So let me ask you the next question: what's your favorite cut?
My favorite cut, like when I cut a cigar,
Yes.
I'll tell you what, man, Calibri really fucked me up about 3, 4 years ago with their V cut. Calibri, look, I've always been, you know, the story goes when you're at the factory, if you pull out a cutter, everybody looks at you weird. You want to just bite the cap off, right? I don't look. I've always been a guillotine. It's funny is I still have the first guillotine cutter that I've ever bought back in med school. This ain't it. This is a shitty one. You could hear how, but I've got one that is like surgical steel. It's fantastic. A rabbi might steal it from me. Okay, it's that good. But for whatever purposes, right? But yeah, Calibri really, Calibri really messed me up with their deep V cutter. Holy shit, man! That cutter really messed me up. I used it so much it fell apart on me. All the screws like literally flew off the damn thing, and then I just like, and then they sent me this thing. It's which is their S cut.
Mm-hmm.
It's a nothing wrong with the guillotine cutter. Just don't go. Don't you got to be you got people got to understand how to cut a cigar. Most premium cigars have a triple cap. Just go beyond the first cap. Don't go second and third. You don't take off too much. And then you've got obviously different cigars like the Chisel that came out, and people were doing a punch hole on top and saying the smoke hits the fuck that. It's all fucking bullshit. Fucking the point is the cut doesn't matter as long as you have good flow. If you have good flow and you can get that bouquet of smoke and the flavors, that's really what it comes down to. There's
What
no
is
but
what is your biggest pet peeve when you walk into a lounge?
oh man, hygiene, brother, hygiene.
Can you
I'm
explain?
I'm that guy that walks in and I'm looking at the frickin' I'm looking at I don't even know if I should say it. Like I'm looking at the chairs, the ashtrays. I'm looking at the cutters. I'm looking at the floor. I'm looking at the grout. I'm looking at the caulking on the frickin' crown molding. Like I'm the guy. Like did the guy do a good job? I'm like a Rain Man when I walk into a cigar lounge, and there's people that really, really invest in providing that environment that is just welcoming, and that's what people don't understand. That I don't care how many online retailers there are. If you know how to run a shop, you have no competition. If you know how to run a cigar lounge and you provide that environment where somebody can go there, hop on the Wi-Fi, get a cup of coffee, light a cigar, put your feet up, relax. There's nothing, no, there isn't an online experience that can replace that. So
If you had somebody to smoke a cigar with, Winston Churchill is not an option. If you had somebody in history, dead or alive, to smoke a cigar with, who would it be? And what would the cigar you would want to smoke?
that's a real easy. It would actually be multiple people. Number one would be my father. My father passed away. He was 62 years old. He was a chain smoking cigarette, old school. I'm talking like when he was 18, 17, he had a cigarette in his hand, right? And very, very classy old man that just was like, he was the epitome of elegance and class and just debonair. And just, they don't make them like that anymore. And I think Pops would have been one that I would have loved to have taken him from cigarettes to cigars. I think I would have really enjoyed that transition and just he was the greatest storyteller in my life and he always told us stories that allowed us to build our lives in a way that we could be proud of. Because yeah, history repeats itself unless
Mm-hmm.
if you're a student of history, which I am, um, it kind of is a problem because a lot of my decisions are based on other people's mistakes and I don't want to commit those mistakes. So I do live a very conservative life. I'm very aggressive in business. I'm not afraid to take a risk, but it's because I know who's in control at the end of the day. I'm really betting on myself, and I'll bet on myself each and every day because
Sure.
I it's so tough to talk about yourself. When I say the word I get stuck. I'm so sorry, man.
You're fine, dude. You're fine. No problem at all. I know you're a religious man, and I know your religiousness or religiosity does direct you and control you. If you got to the pearly gates, what box of cigars would you present?
That's funny. You mean I'm gonna show up to the party with a box of cigars?
Of you're the cigar guy.
Yeah,
What box would you present from Kafie 1901
it's funny.
at the
The
pearly
first cigar
gates?
the first cigar that we launched was the the Don Fernando Maduro, which was literally I named it after my father, Fernando, right? They say a person dies once when they're buried, and the second time they die is when the last person on earth no longer mentions their name. So in order to keep
Correct.
my father's spirit alive, is I created a brand named after him, right? Which is kind of ironic because now with that I'm with La Aurora, they also the previous owner was named Fernando Leon Jimenez, so we had to change our brand from Don Fernando to DFM. The Don Fernando Maduro is now the DFM. I would take that box of cigars because this year what we're doing to that blend is magical. We're putting in a filler that I discovered last year in the Dominican Republic called Andullo tobacco. Andullo tobacco is a very niche tobacco that's cultivated in the Dominican Republic, and what's special about it is the way it's fermented. It's a method that's been around for about 1,000 years, and it's been kept alive by the Taino Indian tribe in the Dominican Republic. And you got to look it up. Andullo, Andullo. So that Don Fernando Maduro used to have a very special filler tobacco from Jalapa. We were using Jalapa tobacco before a lot of people. Now it's Aganorsa, right? The big name. But we were using Jalapa tobacco from the region of Jalapa in that cigar. That's what made that cigar good. But right now, I'm telling you, we've discovered a better filler tobacco than Jalapa Habano tobacco. This shit is on fire. It's delicious. It's crazy. I could have that cigar for the rest of my life. That's the box I'm taking with me. The DFM by Kafie 1901. It's going to be gorgeous. It's coming out in a couple of months. I can't wait to have it.
I can't wait to try it. What is your favorite liquor pairing?
Wow, man. You want to you mean cigar and liquor?
What is your go-to if you've never tried a cigar? What
All
is
right.
your go-to liquor pairing?
Let me grab the bottle so I can show you guys.
Yeah. Oh, Gabby busted out a phenomenal bottle.
All right. So this 95% of people in America have never heard of this, all right? Amarula. This is insane. It's a cream liqueur. It's 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 got a lot of similarities to a very well blended cigar, right? Now I get the traditional cream liqueur. They have one in vanilla and all this other crap. I don't really lean towards, but the amarula fruit is a fruit that elephants in Africa eat. This is actually an African cream liqueur. It's from Africa. It's
Wow.
very hard to find. You're lucky to get it. It's not that expensive, and I just put this on the rocks, and just it is outstanding. It is freaking off the charts good. I could literally, you could put that in a bottle, and I'll be there like a baby just drinking it. Right? It's fantastic. Now I'm a rum guy, but rum is great, but rum is really more celebratory. Whereas this is like it could be like 10 a.m. and I'm drinking this. All right.
So, Gabby, as we close the show, this is where I give you closing points. Hang on, don't disconnect right after this, but this is the part of the show that's yours to let people know because again, I'm not a very product heavy show. This is your opportunity to close the show, let people know what to expect, let people to know what is coming out with Kafie 1901, and we'll close the show after. So,
That's
Gabby
great.
Kafie
Look,
Doc, the show
I,
is
I,
yours.
thank you, man. Thank you, Ryan. I'll keep it simple. Everything we do is uh, really, we're so social media heavy. Go to our website, cafe1901.com. You can check out Instagram, Facebook. Instagram is where we really publish a lot of neat things that we're doing. Um, we've been working with our new factory partners since the end of last year, and We have really taken our entire portfolio of offerings that we were making in Honduras, and we've rebuilt them one blend at a time in the Dominican Republic. So in about 2 months, we're going to have products starting to arrive in the U.S. Um, I'm really focused on 3 tier levels, right? I think a successful company needs to offer a product that's in the $3 to $4 range, the $5 to $7 range, and then we're going to have our ultra premium, which is going to be in the $10 to $14 range. So in the, let's call it the budget line, we've got 3 blends coming out: a Habano Natural, um, a Habano Maduro, and a Connecticut blend. This is going to be mixed filler bundles, right? It's going to be called Naked Cigars by Kafie 1901. We're not putting any cigar bands or anything. We're keeping it really budget friendly. The second tier is our Liga de la Casa, which means house blend in Spanish. Liga de la Casa. We own that trademark, and that's our. It's going to be a long filler bundle, which is very strange. A lot of people don't offer a long filler bundle. We've decided to incorporate that into our portfolio. And then we're jumping into the premium, ultra premium line, which is going to be 5 different blends. We're finally going to release a blend that I've been working on for about 3 years, which is a Habano Natural. Um, I was not able to make that blend come to life in Honduras. We did not have the tobaccos to make it possible. So we finally did produce that blend at La Aurora, and it's coming out at the end of July, beginning of August. So if you go to our website, cafe1901.com, there's on the top outline, the menu, there's 2022 releases. You can click on that and you can check out everything that's going to be coming in a couple of months. That's it. Look, we're a small company. We don't have any sales reps. We have our dealer network across the U.S. We have some online partners that we work with. Dan Sawal, he's a great supporter of our business. Kevin Thompson as well. We're grateful for those guys. Um, and we do a lot of business overseas. About 70% of our business is international.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I can say thank you so much. Dan is an avid viewer of the show, a big fan of the show, or at least I like to think he is. He comments most of the shows. So thank you so much for everybody watching this episode. I hope you've enjoyed the time that we've spent with Dr. Gaby Kafie. Check out Kafie 1901 brands, and that encompasses more than just cigars. Check out their coffee brand as well. And to all of the sponsors that make this show possible: Drew Estate, K by Karen Berger, we have BAMF Cigars, Christoph Cigars, Glenn Case, Jared Trudeau over there at Christoph, Bruce Bush, and Karen Berger over at K by Karen. Ish is a great friend of mine, of the show. Jack Heyer and the whole team over at Drew Estate, thank you so much. And again, New Air Humidors, which if you're looking for a great humidor to fill with all of your Kafie 1901 with cigars, New Air Humidors will suffice immaculately. And the drink that I had tonight with the Gaby 1901 San Andreas was the Axe and Oak, which is the only drink and only bourbon of the show that we have.
That's great.
Because it's that great. The Axe and Oak Rye, which was recommended that I try the rye, which went great with the 1901 San Andreas.
Thank you, man. Thank you
for that recommendation. So until we see everyone again, smoke what you like, smoke as often as you can, and have a great rest of your week.